Hi, thank you for holding this press conference. I'm Nadine from the Straits Times. I have several questions. I think my first question is to the three new faces. Wanted to ask if there's any stigma being an opposition candidate, and how would you respond to that for all three of you? And I would also like to ask two questions to Mr. Putra. Firstly, will there be any incumbent WP MPs that will be retiring from politics this time round? And also, we're getting a clearer picture that the party is fielding a new wave of young candidates, many in their 30s, like Mr. Sufyan, who is in the panel. Can you comment on the generational shift that you're witnessing? And are you seeing an unusual influx of youths and adults under 30 volunteering with the party now? And how would you explain this influx? Thank you.
Just let me write down the last question before I forget it. It was about the generational shift, right? Okay. Thank you. Let me ask the candidates to reply to the first bucket, the first question that you asked, which is on the stigma. So maybe I can start with Harpreet. Thank you.
If anything, it's a badge of honor. Singaporeans are hungry to have people speak up for them. And they know what's on our hearts. They welcomed us warmly. And I think you will see that at our rallies. And that's all I need to say.
If I could add to Harpreet's comments. Speaking as a minority, particularly, we have seen that many minority candidates are stepping up, be it for us, for our party, or to the other side. And I think that bodes well for our political evolution in terms of representing the voices of the many, including the minorities. And I don't see that a stigma in terms of joining opposition politics is something very prevalent today, and that's why I think many more are stepping up, including myself.
I'll go last. I stay at Hougang, so I think that speaks a lot. So Hougang resident. So that's one. I'm used to having Workers' Party in my life since I'm a resident there. But I think there's a difference between being a candidate versus a supporter, right? So I'll tell a very, very heartening story. I share it with quite a few people. So as an ex-teacher, I do keep in touch with my ex-students in Facebook, if they still use Facebook, and stuff like that. So when I started being kind of exposed more in the media, quite a few ex-students reached out and started chatting with me again. And they were voices of support. And I think that speaks a lot for itself, right? They tell me that their parents support, their parents remember me as their ex-teacher. So I think it's very heartening. I think that stigma, I personally feel like Harpreet said, it's a badge of honor, right? It's a badge of honor, and I think Singaporeans are really looking to that tide to eventually push that change, to have people speak up for their beliefs, what they want. And like I say, very happy to be at the forefront of this.
Thank you, everyone. So there were two questions. The first was about whether there would be any incumbent MPs retiring from politics. This from the Workers' Party slate, I imagine. So this question, Nadine, will be clarified on nomination day. The next question, there is a new wave of candidates in their 30s. Is it a generational shift? No, absolutely. I think, but it's a bit more fundamental because the party needs to grow and needs to be in touch with Singaporeans. In fact, I shared this publicly some years ago when Mr. Lau spoke to me about wanting to step down, and my instinctive reaction was, you're not very old, you should stay on. And he said something quite perceptive. He said, Pritam, I don't have a pulse of the younger generation. And that was quite a profound remark coming from him. And so, in that vein, it is important for us to always look to bring in people who can carry the dreams, aspirations, and hopes and fears of their generation, and to present these in Parliament, and because it's the highest lawmaking body in our land, and it's important for our people to know that their views are represented at the highest decision-making body of our land. So I see that, I hope that continues, and we are able to continue to attract bright people from all walks of life to speak up in Parliament for their generation. On the volunteers, volunteering, so that is a little bit different. The volunteers come from all walks of life, all age groups. Some people are on the cusp of retirement, and they say, all my life, I've wanted to do this, but I have not been able to do it because of certain professional obligations. Never felt right, and now it does. So we see a range of people. I think if you saw our volunteer video, which we put out, the first gentleman, I think, is Joseph. And Joseph is 88 years old. And it's very heartwarming for me to see people from all walks, all age groups, wanting to join the Workers' Party and make a contribution. And I always tell them, you're all pieces of a jigsaw, and you're all equally important. And if one piece is missing, the jigsaw doesn't look complete. So everybody plays their part. It's not just the candidates, it's not just the leadership. We're a team, and it is always a case of strengthening this team as much as we can for the good of Singapore and Singaporeans.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Daryl from Lian Taobao. In your manifesto, you called for the state of Palestine to be recognized. Why the inclusion of this position? Is it not WP's usual practice to keep foreign policy non-partisan? And I have two more questions. What is the WP's position when there's more oppositions joining the GE this time round? And a few of them actually indicating at areas where WP has shown interest. And has WP been in dialogue with them to do any prevention of three-corner fight? And is WP ready to do any horse trading with these parties? And the last part is, what is WP definition of a good mandate for this GE? Is it measured by the vote share or number of seats in GRCs or SMCs? And how does the party assess whether it has achieved what it has set up to do for this GE? Thank you.
Thank you for that. On the matter of foreign policy, if you look at our previous manifesto, we commented on the South China Sea issue as well. So things which are relevant, important, and I think that was in the context of the COC. So that's not unusual. I also recall my colleague Gerald Kiam, I think a similar question was put to him when he launched the manifesto, and he said, I'm surprised nobody's talking about Myanmar. It's also in our manifesto. So I think these are some of the issues which are received by us on the ground. We have to understand what is our position that we want to take. I think the government's position on Palestine is, in principle, they are prepared to accept it. That's the position that the Foreign Minister established in Parliament. In principle, then that they are prepared to establish, that they're prepared to accept the establishment of the state of Palestine. The question is when. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's not particularly unusual for us also to share a certain view of that position. It doesn't change the fact that we take a very circumspect view on getting involved in foreign policy, but that doesn't mean we can't speak about it. So what we will do, of course, is to continue engaging the ground, understand the emotions on the ground, and understand how we can encourage people to not stop them from having this view. I think if you read Prime Minister Lawrence Wong's speech at the Rajaratnam lecture, I mean, he said, look, it's not unusual for people to have very strong views about these things. And I think he also said it's just part and parcel of an engaged society that we will have such views. So I think we should not jump and assume that that means people are taking partisan positions and suddenly they have no interest in Singapore's position. People will have views. And 147 countries have recognized the state of Palestine. China has recognized it. India has recognized it. Vietnam has recognized it. Malaysia, Indonesia. So it's not unusual. And our people have a view as well. So, like a party that will want to carry the emotions and views of our people, I make no apologies that this is an issue which has become live because of what is happening in the Middle East. And as a party, we've put our position out on it in the manifesto. On your second question on opposition joining, more opposition joining this GE, I think we've had all the seats contested for a while now in general elections. So, three corner fights, horse trading, we generally don't discuss these things publicly. As you know, there would be, somebody organizes a meeting for three corner resolutions, try to make sure that there's no three corner fight. I mean, we don't attend these sessions. But what I would say is it's an open system, and you can certainly expect there to be more 3-4 corner fights from here on. What would be a good mandate? A good mandate is all of our candidates get elected into parliament. That would be a good mandate. That would be a good election. But it's going to be a tough fight. We are facing an opponent which is extremely well-resourced, and we will have to work very hard and fight for every single vote. I think in the first press conference, I made it clear for people who think that there are done deals in terms of this constituency sure in Nepal already. No such thing. You just look at 2015 and you look at the margins. They can be very, very narrow. So let's remember that we are still a fledgling opposition in Singapore. The opposition, the place of an opposition in our political system still requires to be institutionalized. And we have put forward a slate of candidates. We hope the public can relate to them and can understand that these are the individuals who will look after your towns, look after your town councils, and ensure that you have a pleasant living environment and there's something to look forward to as Singaporeans in Parliament when you know your voice can be brought into Parliament. Thank you. What is your difficulty with understanding that? Because you want a two-party, you want a two-state solution. I thought it was drafted quite accurately and clearly in the manifesto. We believe in a two-state solution. Did I get your question right? I think I'm not getting to the gravamen of your question.
And why is the inclusion of your Palestine position in the manifesto this time around? And is it not your usual practice to keep foreign policy non-partisan?
I answered that question. Yeah. I answered that question. Next question. Yes.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Hannah. I'm from Mothership. This question will be for the new candidates. While we await with abated breath for nomination day on when you guys will be fielded, is there any place that speaks to you that you would like to be at? And especially for Mr. Harpreet, you've been seen everywhere, like at Marine Parade and East Coast. Is there like a place that you have an affinity to that you would like to be fielded at?
Maybe I'll ask Jasper to start that.
I'm Hougang resident, so actually this is my take. I think as a fledgling opposition, we have to play our cards the best that we can, right? So you may call it party discipline or whatever, but for me, there's definitely more grounds that I've walked, right? I think some of the reporters have followed us around as well. They know roughly where we have been walking or appeared, or like Pokemon like that just appeared there and somebody caught us, right? It has happened, but I think as a whole, like as you say, let's wait for nomination day. I think it will be where all things come out. Yeah. Thank you.
I think Jasper has spoken for everybody. so I don't think you're going to get anything out of the other two as well. Yeah, next question.
Hey, sorry, I can't stand up with all this. Hi, my name is Singaram. I'm from Tamil Murasu. So, my question to WP is this. So, we are seeing a lot of fire plans being announced all over Singapore at the moment, and a few schemes. So, how does that affect your election chances, and what do you think voters should keep in mind, seeing that you've also gone into the issues of public funding for upgrading works in opposition wards previously? So that's my first question.
Singaram, sorry, can you just repeat the last part of your question? Just the last part.
Okay. Basically, like, do you think that from a voter's perspective, he sees on one side, he sees fire plans in various constituencies, which you might be also contesting in. And on the other side, we also, you have also highlighted in previously that there are certain constraints that you face when you're trying to get public funding for upgrading works in opposition wards. So, is there a sacrifice that a voter has to make when he votes for you? If so, what is the sacrifice? What does he need to keep in mind? Does he have to sacrifice himself for the greater good? That's one thing. My second question is quite a basic one is, coming from the vernacular paper, can we expect to see more candidates being unveiled? Actually, just a third question, if I may add on. I saw your manifesto, I had a read, and a lot of policy proposals that you put forth. So, you have put forth a lot of policy proposals in the past also, and sometimes you've alluded that sometimes it takes many years to get implemented. So, do you think that after this election, if you are elected, do you foresee that out of these 125 policies, you can expect some of them to be implemented in quite a fast track? Thanks.
Thank you so much. So your 5-year plans, indeed, so even for example, if you put yourself in the shoes of the incumbent WP MPs, our town council also had 5-year plans, has a 5-year plan, and you will see them on the billboards and in the lifts where the town council has put that up already. Now, certainly because you are not incumbent there, your 5-year plan, I think at its root, will have to first take into account feedback from residents. So I think this is a similar variant of a question that was put to me when I was at the Sengkang doorstop in 2020. And the answer is largely similar. When you're elected, if you have the privilege of representing those voters and those constituents, the first thing to do is to find out from them in a deeper way, what improvements would you like in this constituency? I think that has to be done. You can take into account what the previous team wanted to do. There will be very helpful nuggets in there, of course. But ultimately, the ball is now in your court. And so I would say the first thing, if I were in the position of a new candidate in a new constituency, lucky enough to win it, and having the privilege to serve residents, I would say, let me go and speak to the residents again and find out really what other improvements are required. Because there may be differences. So that's one. In terms of funding, now, if 5 years ago you had come to me and said, you will have some funding constraints, yes, there would be some. Today, far less, because of years and years and years of advocacy on the CIPC issue by many opposition MPs. The Ministry of National Development changed the policy in 2021. And arising from questions that we've put into Parliament and have been replied by the office holders, I have to acknowledge the change of policy. We now have the ability to understand that we can also put up, for example, barrier-free access facilities, new playgrounds, and secure CIPC funding for those purposes. So far more better state of affairs than in the past when it was very difficult to even secure funding to execute programs. And worse, even if you want to do it, you've got to ask the losing PAP candidate for his approval to carry out that program. And that was, when you talk about unfairness and the system and the way the system is stacked against you, I think that is an accurate example of some of the things that we have to fight against. And fortunately, that wall has collapsed now. And I think the reason why it has collapsed is because of the views of Singaporeans. Singaporeans have stood up. Singaporeans have made their views known about such policies. Where taxpayer funding is used for people who vote a certain way and not for the opposition. That's changing, and it's changed less because of the Workers' Party, but more because Singaporeans have stood up to support the Workers' Party and the democracy in the party. On the manifesto, do you foresee these being implemented? Well, we will have to advocate for them. But I think this is where an opposition is always helpful. You push the agenda forward, you push the line forward. And the government has to listen to an opposition in parliament because the public will react. And if the public reaction is, that's a good idea actually, the government will respond. Any reasonable, sensible government will respond. So I think that's the biggest advantage of having elected opposition MPs in parliament, because they can advocate for you. Thank you, Chair. You asked a question about any Tamil candidate. So we've got one more candidate introduction coming up. Stay tuned. Jim, go ahead.
Hi, Jean from SCMP. I think just now the three new candidates were asked about backlash faced at your workplace or whatever for joining the opposition. I was wondering if we could contrast that with your and Sylvia's experience when you joined Workers' Party at that time. Was it a badge of honor then? And if you could comment on the change or differences in your experiences. The second one, unless I missed it, have you, I think you asked about the vote share. Is there a specific number that you are hoping to get? I think, last time was 50.49, I think. So are you hoping to bet that? Was that? If you're not able to give us an exact figure, can we get some kind of figure? And then, I'm surprised no one has asked this, but this morning, I think NTUC Sec Gen has made his intentions to run in Jalan Kayu quite clear. Can the residents there expect WP to run against him?
Yeah, so Jean, you asked about employers' reaction, is it, to candidature, something along those lines? I think speaking for myself, I never thought about it that way because to me, joining WP and eventually being asked to be a candidate was something that I felt that my conscience required me to do. So I never thought about external validation in that sense. And of course, I think it's good that we see this development where more and more, I would say, although still absolute numbers not that many, but it's becoming more commonplace now to have people who are asked to stand as candidates for opposition parties needing to close that loop with their employers. So for myself, in 2006, when I first ran in the election, I was teaching in a polytechnic. So while polytechnics at that time had the experience of having their lecturers become PAP candidates, but they had never actually had the experience of somebody wanting to be a WP candidate. So the administration actually went through some review, at that point. And it was not clear initially that they would sort of permit me to do this while continuing in service. But to their credit, I would say that policies evolved and it came in time, and I was told that I just needed to take leave, and I did not have to discontinue my employment. So I think the seeds have already been planted there for a long time. So we of course look forward to the day when employers will have no issues at all. I mean, some are very supportive, others perhaps not too sure about what are the implications, but I think the landscape is evolving and we should continue in that vein.
My view is a bit different from Sylvia's. Badge of honor, I would say yes, because I had a lot of people who were advising me against it. so I came at it from a different perspective. But it is a case now, the way I see it, some employers are far more enlightened than others. I think that's what I do see. For the employers who are still quite close-minded, it does disturb me a bit as to why this would be an issue, unless, of course, there are, requirements of the job which are so unique and so problematic where that person would have to stand down. But if you ask me, does a person need to step down from a law firm? That's a little problematic to me. So there are changes. It's changing. You will find vestiges of some highly conservative thinking, but I would like to say that that is evolving, and I think that's healthy. You asked about differences. I beg your pardon. You asked about vote share. You quoted this number 50.49. I think that's the overall vote share. Yeah, in the wards that we contested in. I don't know. I'm not sure what variable I will have to get my fingers on to understand what that number could eventually look like for this coming election. But we'll give it our best shot. We've put together a slate of people who we believe can fly the flag for the party, and more importantly, fly the higher flag for Singapore. And let's see what happens on polling day. Question on Jalan Kayu, that's a question that will be very clear on nomination day.
Hi, Lorraine from CNA Today here. I'd like to ask, basically the PAP has put out a Petra post earlier today, about addressing the Workers' Party's claim for credit about the 15 government policies. It says that the WP claims were in fact raised by PAP MPs in earlier. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on whether you've seen it already, and what are your thoughts about the PAP claiming that they had already said these things earlier in Parliament.
I have not seen that post or whatever they've put up, but indeed I also recall them saying that good ideas can come from anywhere. And I would say good ideas have come from the Workers' Party as well. And I'll leave it at that.
Hi, Richa from CNA. I had two questions. One for Mr. Singh, basically on how WPA has been usually seen around the northeast and east area of Singapore. So this time round, could we see WP in other parts of Singapore as well? And one for the new faces, just wanted to understand, because being a volunteer now as a candidate, things would be different for you guys. So how do you guys hope to engage the residents a bit more and kind of represent the people in that sense?
So before I hand it over to the candidates, I will attempt to answer your question on where we have seen. I think right now a lot of our advocacy still and our political work still extends around the northeast and places where we have contested before in prior elections. So if you're assuming there will be a journey to the west at some point, at the moment our focus is still very much on the areas where we have walked for many, many years.
I'm happy to start the ball rolling on your second question, Risha. The short answer is, with even greater effort, determination, and gusto, my team and I have been doing house visits, walking ground for 2 to 3 times a week over the last, they've been doing it far longer than I have. Since the last GV, I've been doing it for about 18 to 20 months right now. My attitude to it is, if elected, I am going to give practically all of my time to my residents. That is the only way I feel I can achieve what I want to do in this next stage of my life. I have the privilege of doing that. I know many of them, new candidates, don't have it. And I intend to use that privilege, to the fullest extent possible. So, elect me and my team wherever we go, and you will have me practically in your face all the time. And the advantage is you have the caliber of people in my team without having to pay us ministerial salaries.
I'll go next then. I think among some of the candidates, you know that some of us have been LAs and SAs, right? So I'll take it as OJT, right? On the job training. We've been following the MPs around, been shadowing them of sorts, doing things within the constituency. Whenever there's a fire, we are the first one to run down to make sure everything is okay, make sure the guys are okay, make sure the families are okay, making sure they're taken care of. So OJT, are we ever ready? No, because it's not an easy job, to be honest. Like Pritam and Sylvia alluded to, the rigor expected of a WPMP is definitely a lot more. Expectations are to run with less resources, to run with limitations, and this is not a complaint. This is something we have to do. This is something we do because somebody has to do it, right? So, never ready, but we just have to do whatever we can to get ourselves ready for it. Yeah, thanks.
Just to add on to my colleagues, basically the difference being a candidate and as opposed to being a volunteer is that you're carrying the party's brand with you, and the expectations that come with being a candidate and an elected member of the WP should you be elected. The visibility is much higher being in the opposition. We have the experience of running town councils and all that, so I think the worries will not, there will not be worries in terms of that. In terms of the position that someone like myself and someone like Harpreet, as minorities, also the scrutiny will be certainly higher. And I think we are mindful of what we do and what we would advocate. I think we are all in for it.
Maybe I'll take one last question. Yes.
Hi, thank you. This is Yijun here from Shimi Lady News. I just have a few questions here. So, the 2025 GE is the first under new Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. So, I'm just wondering, do you foresee this upcoming GE will be, how different will it be as compared to the previous GE 2020? And could you share what lessons has the party learned from its experience managing multiple constituencies since 2020? And then how will this actually shape your campaign in GE 2025 and this upcoming GE? And how confident is Workers' Party in retaining Sengkang GRC in the upcoming election? And my very last question would be, can you share a bit more about the process of selecting the new candidates for GE 2025 and how the party is preparing the how does the party preparing the new candidates to connect with the voters and represent WP's values? Thank you.
Thank you. So the first question on whether it will be a different campaign because this is Prime Minister Lawrence Wong's first campaign. It's no different for us. I mean, at the end of the day, we are still on that journey to secure at least 1/3 of the seats in Parliament. So it doesn't matter who the Prime Minister is on the other side. I mean, our value proposition to Singaporeans is we are better off as a country, better off as a society with a more balanced political system. And that means getting more Workers' Party members of Parliament, elected. It will not hamstring the government. The government will not suddenly not know what to do. I mean, if you tell me the government can't work with a 2/3 majority, I think we're in much bigger trouble than the PAP is letting us in on. So our mission is still at that 1/3 goal and that 1/3 target. So we are under that, and so we will continue to fight hard for every single vote. In terms of the lessons learned from having multiple constituencies, multiple is again makes it suggest that we've got a lot, but it's 2 town councils. Certainly, I think I would reflect back on the town council management reports. We are doing no worse off than PAP town councils. In some years, we're better than them. But generally, I think when you as a voter, I don't mean you specifically, but when voters come to Aljunied, go to Sengkang, go to Hougang, it looks like any other place in Singapore. And I think that's the baseline that we want, that we will deliver, and we have delivered to all the residents in Aljunied, Hougang, and Sengkang. And then the question now is, of course, doing better. How confident are we in retaining Sengkang? The margins were quite narrow the last time, 52-48. It will be a very difficult fight. So my message to the residents in Sengkang, the more balanced political system that will be good for Singapore and Singaporeans starts with you and your vote. So I hope they continue to have faith in the Workers' Party and by their vote make a larger contribution to this country that we love, Singapore. Selecting candidates, I've gone through this process briefly. In the past, people come in and volunteer, we assess them. MPs speak to them, they share their views, we share their views, there's a back and forth. Some of them have ambitions to represent Singapore at a higher stage, get involved in public service through an opposition party. We make our assessments of their motivations. We have some internal processes which are new for this group, and then we make a decision. I mean, if there will always be some boxes for which we don't have all the answers. I mean, there's no way you can have an insight into every candidate we're putting up unless you've got a drone over their heads that follow them wherever they are, whatever they do, and you've had that drone there for the last 20, 30 years. I mean, that's just not real life. So we have to make a decision at some point. And ultimately, I think for me what's important is whether candidates can work as a team. You're not an independent candidate. You're a candidate that is flying the flag of the Workers' Party. So obviously there's a certain party discipline that these individuals also have to be fidelious to. And those are some of the things that we consider. Okay. So we've gone on for about an hour, and I'd like to thank members of the media for joining us today. We will see you again tomorrow, and I look forward to your questions then. Thank you.